Ocho sampo pa gyu trashi pa tuche tempe tinle yarngoda belge drolor zambe ze parche pande lame shabla solvade Oma Guru Vajradhara Suma Timuni Shasane Kar Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Oma Guru Vajradhara Suma Timuni Shasane Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Oma Guru Vajradhara Suma Timuni Shasane Kar Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munishas Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Dagi Jetsun Lama Tuje Che Nyamda Dala Tuje Siksu So Gebe Shesan Dala Tendo So Uyon Sunge Nawa Tsedo So Tsechi Nyingne Solwa Debe Tse Dechen Korlo Visu Likshu Ne Yela Sambe Dedun Malupa Geme Lunge Drubra Chingi Lo Tsoni Sodan Dikdun Shape Tse Dingi Namke Yinsu Likshu Ne Lapchen Tsoni Yonsu Tsopata Cherani Dun Chamra Chingi Lo Chanchu Pargi Ninsen Tukuntu Niu Peme Siudru Likshu Ne Chanchu Drube Geken Kunshishi Tungen de la Drubra Chingi Lo Dagi Lo Na Chola Chokpada Chemin Samjur Ngimba Shiwada Chedan Tumbe Dedun Malupa Beme Lungi Drubra Dorna Tingne Tsira Tamcheda Techi Pardu Nekau Tamche Tu Rese Kyamne Lama Keleme Tukche Chingi Dala Siksu So Gongyab Drive Nyamda Dachala Chetsun Lame Tuche Rab Gongne Kudan Sungi Nawa Dralme Tu Nyam Sunyong Kesan Toprasho Kewa Kuntu Yanda Lama Dan Rame Chiki Pela Longchechi Sadan Lamgi Yunten Rabzone Dorje Changi Kopa Nyur Tobe Sho Hakyuke Kudan Dagi Lu Hakyuke Sungdan Dagi Nga Hakyuke Tukdan Dagi Teyerme Chikdu Chingi Lo Makyuke Kudan Dagi Lu Makyuke Sundan Dagi Nga Makyuke Tukdan Dagi Teyerme Chikdu Chingi Lo Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakya Munye Svoha Om Muni peki choshimeto Tamare rabalingashin ni de gempadi sange shinto mikte ulwarki drokunu namda shingla Chopar shoyi dam guru ratna mindrala kam niryata yami Sangye chedan tsoge chonam la chancho pardo dani kyapso chi dagi jinso gibe sonam ki drola pinchira sangye drupar Sho sangye chedan tsoge chonam la chancho pardo dani kyapso chi dagi jinso gibe sonam ki drola pinchira sangye drupar Sho sangye chedan tsoge chonam la chancho pardo dani kyapso chi dagi jinso gibe sonam ki drola pinchira sangye drupar Sho. Nel Buddha
In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I obtain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Namo yal haye ke da lida ne chin ke drunda na mi ke num da drowa kunge dhanam chi tsampa tamche ke do dagi che ten Una volta
Once,
ho sentito dire da uno dei miei maestri,
I heard one of my masters saying, Dragon Rinpoche, his name was,
la frase che diceva
the phrase which said, the first thing that we must do to
raggiungere qualunque
reach whatever goal is to desire it, to want it. That's the first step.
il primo passo per qualcosa è
The first step is to put the energy towards that thing, to really want it.
da un lato può sembrare poco
And,
voler
to desire, to want, it might not seem like much, but actually, but if you don't give the direction, you can put all the energy you want into something, but without a clear direction, it's not going to happen.
desiderare la prima cosa
So to desire is the first step.
a secondo di quello che desidero
Depending on what we want to achieve,
cercare i mezzi
I have to find the way to realize this objective.
e uno degli aspetti più
And one of the most important aspects in our lives generally, in the present time, the past, are relationships, human relationships. Because in order to obtain anything, we have to learn, let's say, to learn a craft, a means of living, to have a family.
su cui queste relazioni si basano
We have to develop relationships which have to be developed based on
io ho uno scambio
faith, trust. There's a kind of exchange. I give and I receive something. Without trust, we can't. It's difficult to do anything, and it's one of the most important aspects in our lives. Even if we think about something very simple, if we go to a restaurant, there's a trust there, no? That the person who's giving me something to eat is going to be the certain quality, that's not going to put something horrible inside. That if I ask for something, there's a trust that what I asked for will be brought to my table. Not as happened in Tibet recently, that they started to put on internet lies, fake news against the Muslim community of Tibet, saying that their restaurants in Tibet, the Shin from the from Xinjiang religion, mainly Muslim, when Tibetans came, they were said on internet that they would spit on the food. It was also said that they put feces of urine in it. And so people stopped going to these restaurants. They've lost trust. Even the Panchen Lama went to... So they all went to these restaurants to try to take this back, this trust that had been there. It came to mind because whatever we do is based on trust. It's the most important aspect of what we do. When we have faith in somebody, there are various levels. For example, if I go to the dentist, the faith I need, the trust, according to me, that he's able to do what he's supposed to do, that he has my well-being at heart, up to a certain point. I'm a bit stubborn on this. When I go to a doctor, whatever type he is, for me personally, the most important thing is to feel. Because I can only have my subjective sensation. I can't really gauge what the other's thinking. But for me, the most important thing is to have the sensation that the doctor in question cares about me, that my health is important for him or her. It happened once or twice. I went to a doctor in one specific case, and I had the sensation that he didn't really care if I was well or not. I was just a number to him. Do this, do that, and the other. He didn't even look at me well. I came out. I didn't do anything he said because there was a lack of trust. And then, strangely enough, after that, the problem in any case disappeared. So I went to a specialist for a certain medical problem, didn't take the cure he told me, but somehow the problem just went away. I don't know how, but that's what happened. What happens is that when we talk about having faith in somebody, it depends what we have to do together. I take a taxi. I trust that that person will take me in a safe way to my destination, and that the costs are more or less what they should be. When we get into a deeper level in relationship with another person, trust, we see it as I can trust you if you're really sincere and honest with me. I trust you that you're honest, as long as you're honest with me. That's the most common aspect. In the Eastern tradition, Tibetan tradition, I saw a different kind of trust based on something else. It's not much based on that you tell me the truth or not, it's based on how much how much importance the other gives to my well-being. Because a person can be totally honest, transparent, but the things that he or she does may not be based on the priority of my well-being. So as much as I can, how much can I trust what you do with regards to me? The most important base for trust in this case, in the other, is that the other cares about me, has love and compassion towards me, that my happiness is important to him. It happened with Lama Michel Rinpoche a few times. One time in particular that comes into mind, as he didn't exactly lie, but he omitted to say something, and I was really upset about this. How come I was there, and I was looking at the situation? He didn't say anything about it. How's that possible? Come on, he's not being serious with me. And then I breathed a few times. I've never been impulsive, so I looked again, and then I looked very sincerely. I realized that what he did for me was in my best interest at the time, because I've reacted very badly. So in that precise moment, I wasn't in agreement with this thing. So the way he managed it was actually better for me, for example. So then I realized that my well-being didn't depend on the others saying absolutely everything. But I have faith in you, trust in you, that I have certainty in the fact that you love me, that everything you do that it involves me, it's done with my best interests at heart. For example, in Lama. And in the case of Lama Michel Rinpoche, I knew he had a more profound vision than me, but obviously if I wanted to buy a computer, I wouldn't go to him. Because in my opinion, I knew more about computers than Lama Michel. I don't know if that's clear. So it's not a trust based on, therefore for everything I do, I depend on you. Trust, deep trust, it has to do with love. And then another trust is on trust in specific things. For example, that a lawyer does his work properly, that the cook does his work in the correct manner. So I don't have to go and check all their work. I just go to people I trust. Or I take 2 or 3 people with different views, and then I come to my own conclusion. What happens is that whatever we want to do, even on a very mundane level, if we want to learn to read and write, if we want to learn a profession, whatever it is, we depend on others. We're not autonomous. However much we have this idea that we're self-taught, independent, and all that. See, this idea has been kind of inculcated into us. I haven't met anybody who's autonomous, have you? Somebody who can absolutely doesn't need to depend on anybody else. Even people I've known. I can call me self-taught, but I still have to go and get a book that somebody's written or listen to something to somebody said. I don't start from zero with my knowledge. Something I can do on my own, but there's a process of trial and error, etc. Therefore, if I want to learn a language, I need somebody understands well, who can transmit the knowledge to me in a way that I can follow it, and then I have to develop a process of trust. In the spiritual path, it's the same thing. What happens is that most of us have the tendency to repeat things that we know already, thoughts that are there already. It's not that obvious to open our mind and to see things that we didn't see before. The only way that we have is by interaction. And that's one of the things, most important thing. And to find people with whom I interacted that helped, in a way that helped me to open my mind and to see things I hadn't seen before and to access the best parts of me to give me a direction. And then obviously it's up to me to walk afterwards, but the direction. And there's another aspect which is important. I want to follow a certain path. To have somebody who's already done the whole path or part of the path helps me, kind of gives me optimism. Yes, I can do this too. It's possible. A few days ago, for example, today is Sunday. It was 2 Fridays ago. I can't remember exactly. I was getting muddled up with dates. I went to Paris to find this master called Gantin Trinsen Rinpoche. He'd left the body, and he remained in this meditative state in the clear light, and he remained in that situation for 8 days. Means that. So I arrived at the 5th or 6th, 7th. Everything had stopped. Normal vision. He was dead for all intents and purposes, but where his heart was, his body was warm. It hadn't started decomposing his body. There was no smells, etc. And there was a certain light about him. When I saw this, one of the most beautiful things was that, look here, something which we talk about with so many teaching, the descriptions, and all the sadhanas and practices and vajrayana, which talk to transform the death into dharmakaya and to meditate on the death process, etc., etc. They're called to combine the light of the mother, clear light, and that of the sun. But then we see that in practice, then we see this meditative state in death, as I've just described. We can see. So everything that comes before is probably true. So we can see it in practice. Because I'm curious, I can see there's a documentary that's been done called Tuktam, where people have researched on this state, the meditative state that one can achieve at the moment of death. Also, anyway, what I want to say is that to have someone in front of us, an example of what we want to be, who gives us direction, and we need to learn. We need to be with somebody with people who know more than us, who can help us, and slowly we start walking. So the path is ours. Nobody can walk on the path for us, but it's important to have somebody, I mean, 1 or 2 or more people who accompany us. It's said that when we're at the beginning of our path, spiritual path, fewer guides we have, the better it is. Because at the beginning, we have the tendency to, to take refuge in the person and not in the path. Well, let me explain myself. If I had to, let's say I've got an illness and I have to make an appointment with somebody. If I don't understand the path to recovery, the medicine, and project everything onto the doctor, if I have more than one doctor with different aspects and opinions, and there'll be some that are contradictory, and then I get completely confused. So at the end, I don't do anything, well, neither one treatment or another. But when I've got clarity, I'm clear about the medicine I have to take, I can choose one doctor that gives me. There's one doctor who can show one path, and then another doctor who might add some light on other aspects of my recovery. I don't know if this is clear. It's as if I were walking, if I have to go far, if I have more people helping me, and so let's say somebody teaches me how to walk well, the other how to breathe, and then let's say another gives me a visa to get into different countries, and another one who tells me if it's hot or cold. So each one contributing to the global view that helps me to walk. The fact is that the only reason that there is at the beginning to trust somebody is to have a desire to reach a certain objective. I trust a doctor because I want to get better. If I don't consider myself sick, I don't need to trust a doctor. I won't do it. When we get into the spiritual path, at the base is this very deep desire to reach inner peace, to be in peace with oneself, with others. But as we said today, to love oneself, to love the others, to have a coherent view, consistent view. In this path, it's not necessarily easy because it means changing our habits. We need to be accompanied, to have a direction set which to go in, to be supported, to be helped, and somebody might show us if we're going in the right direction or not. In this sense, we need people. We need the human relationships which helps us to go on the path. So there are two fundamental aspects. One is with regards to knowledge, so it's the transmission of knowledge. The term is called a teacher, somebody who teaches us. So I want to. There are so many traditions, ways of being Buddhist, but I need somebody who explains things to me in a manner that I can understand. Another aspect which is important is that there's a difference when somebody explains something to me and I explain something, and if that person is actually manifests what is being taught, for example, so somebody who talks about love, he exemplifies love or demonstrates love. So it has if there's some kind of coherence, it has a totally different power. So I need to be with people who aren't necessarily Buddhists, but the minimum is they have few capabilities than I do. So we're talking about, in this case, the spiritual path. And from this, we have this notion of taking refuge, in which we generate trust. We trust, not in the sense that my life is in your hands, but I want to follow this path. Please help me. Can you show me? Guide me. You support me, please. That is. But the basis we want, the desire to walk. It doesn't mean I trust you and then you do whatever you want with me. It'd be very handy like this. Be much easier. Rather, it's I trust you. Tell me what I need to do in the context, and I'll do it in the context of the spiritual path. As I said, there's a part of us that regards knowledge, and the other is experience. And the experience is it's actually more important than trust. And one of the most interesting aspects of this is if I go to a doctor and I have total trust in that person, and the doctor trusts me that I can get better, that gives me a lot more trust. If I go to the doctor and the doctor says, hey, you're not going to get better. Oh, we can try. He might say, well, let's see what happens. We can try. It would be very hard to have trust in that person. But if I go and that person has faith in me, that helps me to have faith in that person, if he has faith in me. In some way, our path, spiritual path, one of the most important aspects, this exchange in which I give trust and the person who guides me trusts me, has faith in me, in my potential, my capabilities, and that comes back to me. So that also helps me to have trust in myself. That makes all the difference. The spiritual path of Dharma is not, it's not something conceptual only. There's a very deep human connection, and it's said that sometimes progress depends on this. So the idea that we can so this idea of a liberator is like a rhinoceros, solitary rhinoceros. There are some people who, in their lives, let's say, they follow their own spiritual path, in which they don't depend on anybody, and, no tradition or master or anything. But they're very few. It doesn't mean they're better, but they're just certain particular people. For the most part, we need this exchange, this human exchange, and this process is not only a question of acquiring knowledge, but to increasingly develop this love and trust, this mutual trust and love. It's one of the most important things to have love and compassion towards ourselves, and in order to be able to grow, develop. A great deal of importance is given to this relationship, human relationship that's developed between master and disciple, between us and our guide, between us and the Sangha. It's given the utmost importance. It's described that I can have all the knowledge, technical knowledge, but if I miss this heart-to-heart connection, this reciprocal trust, it's as if, it's like having the house with all the most beautiful lamps, everything perfect. And then between us and the electricity station, a pylon fell down, so just wouldn't turn on the lights in our home. So if there's some kind of breakage between you and the font of knowledge and experience, so for example, if in order to be able to give you something, I need to receive something. It's fundamental, it's said. If I want to share, offer something, okay, before I can give something, I need to have something, which is the connection with the lineage, love, faith, trust in my masters, and they in turn had the same things in their masters until we get to Buddha in an uninterrupted form. One aspect is this uninterrupted lineage that's transmitted from master to disciple, and also the lineage of knowledge of knowledge. For example, the Four Noble Truths, that we're looking for constancy in the teaching. They don't become three. There's consistency and consistency in the way the teachings are given in the same word. So it's not like I'm here I can invent stuff. I can adapt on the basis of who I am and who I have in front of me, but with the contents of the teachings must be transmitted as is. This is the transmission of knowledge. And then there's the transmission of connection, of love. I have a relationship of love and trust with my masters, and they had it with their masters, and something goes way beyond words. So there's something very important here. To take refuge is the moment in which we decide seriously to enter in the spiritual path within a certain tradition. Joking once, I identified three types of practitioners. Okay, this is in the gradual path. One is not better than the other, and actually there are different moments on the path. The first moment, there's a kind of spiritual tourist. I'm going to read a book every now and again. I go to Lama, get a blessing. Like somebody goes from tourist, visits a city. He goes, visits a city, he eats in the best places, sees what he has to. He does all the nice things there are to do in the city, and then he goes away. He's not part of that city. He avoids all the unpleasant thing of that city. For example, visit Venice. Venice is one thing, to live there is another. So a spiritual tourist goes there, doesn't really get into it very deeply. So doesn't actually adopt things for daily life. And there's the kind of dilettante, amateur. So let's say the second type is a bit of dilettante, amateur. He goes to the city, he rents a place to live. And sometimes he's there even in winter. He sees various. He starts to really live the place. And then there's the professional who goes. He lives in that city permanently and gets to know it very well. So the spiritual tourist who takes this and learns a bit here and there, and a person here, but doesn't really get in contact with it and doesn't incorporate it in his personal life. And then there's the kind of amateur, so who uses this knowledge to look at himself. He starts asking serious questions. He starts, but sometimes yes, sometimes he's into it, sometimes not. The professional, on the other hand, is that he who enters in that spiritual path. There's no moment in which he's not on the path. Every aspect of my life is incorporated in the spiritual path. Family, work, the entertainment, my spiritual path, also called Dharma, infiltrates every aspect of my life. It's omnipresent. And this is the point in which, and it's at this point that the person is ready to take refuge. When you have that total determination, I want to follow this path. I want to get out of this cycle of suffering. And this is my priority. First, if I whatever I do would, have family work, but all of these aspects are integrated in the spiritual path. They become one. When we're in this situation, we are then ready to take refuge in Dharma, which means we need somebody who can transmit it. And that's called taking refuge in the Guru in general. In Vajrayana Buddhism, it's said that before we take refuge in somebody, to entrust ourselves to somebody, we should have, we really need to let 12 years pass. Listening, to know, to learn, have certain experiences for 12 years. And then I hear people say, what? 12 years, that's too long. Actually, it's not too long. My experience is that they pass very quickly and very often, and usually after a period of at least 12 years. So beyond the point of falling in love and the crisis, and there's a deeper relationship, and that you can really trust on a much deeper level. And it's very important when we trust ourselves to others, to a spiritual guide, there must be trust and love. Apart from trust, respect, obviously. In general, when we look for somebody who guides us, there are some characteristics that we need to. For example, when we look for a doctor, we normally we take. Okay, then we look at the trust. We trust ourselves in the. We look at the reviews from our friends, and before that, professional qualifications. So maybe I go to a doctor I've never been to, but a friend has and recommends this person. But obviously somebody who's qualified. But we have different categories. So we know that this person has all the educational qualifications, and then first advice is don't ever entrust yourself in somebody who has a certain title, who calls themselves Lama or a doctor. That's not sufficient. That is not the point of departure. The most important thing is not only that person has certain characteristics, not only the label, but also the content, but that can communicate them. So what are we looking for? Somebody who has morality. So the person who's able to keep his own commitments, has a good level of concentration to direct his or her own mind, to be mentally present, who is wise, has wisdom, who has a vision which is consistent with reality, at least better than mine, somebody who has a good understanding and knowledge of the Buddha's teachings, and who can explain that in a very clear way that I can understand. Somebody who puts into practice what he teaches, practices what he preaches, let's say. And there's a consistency with what he teaches and how he behaves. And also somebody who loves me, who demonstrates love to me, who has my well-being at heart. That's important. And somebody who, minimum, who has more qualities than me. That's a minimum, indispensable. This is the quality of the Mahayana tradition. Somebody who has a correct vision of reality and who can transmit this in a way that I can understand. Because if somebody So somebody who also undertakes to look after me and not to abandon this commitment, and not to abandon this commitment. And one of the most important characteristics is that I feel that this person loves me, that really wants me to. So who doesn't put conditions on his love for me, so beyond my behavior. These are the main characteristics. I personally, I find myself in this position I need to teach, to formalize the refuge taking. The first time it happened to me, I wasn't that keen on doing it. I talked to Lama Michel. He said, you do this refuge taking. I said, oh, come on, Rinpoche, I don't really want to. He said, no, you've got to do it. So it's not that, like I say, you do as I say because I've already got there and you'll be fine. My attitude is rather, I'm walking the path. I have faith in the path. The most precious thing I have are the masters that I've met and the path of Dharma which I received. I'm walking along that, and I'm very happy to be able to give a helping hand and walk together with you. I'm going this way. Who wants to walk together with me? You're welcome. Let's do the best we can. This is what I can offer. Therefore, it's said that, in Tibetan it's said that, the Buddha and his representative is he who grants refuge, and Dharma is the effective refuge, and this Sangha is the spiritual company along the path. Anyway, a little detail, just a little. Sangha is it was translated from. So we usually put in in Italian it's usually made masculine, but I don't know why. I prefer feminine form, la Sangha. Anyway, I don't know why. So Lama's explaining in Italian, it's masculine form, it's il Sangha, but he thinks la Sangha would be better. But anyway, formal context, we keep it masculine. So it's a process that needs time. Yeah. Okay, so if somebody says to me, I can't decide whether to take refuge, and I said, okay, there's no rush. We need to think, feel. I want to follow this path seriously. I entrust myself in this tradition, the teachings, and the lineage, and I trust you. I have faith in you. For ourselves, principally, because it can happen that we take. Can it happen that we follow somebody and then we feel a bit betrayed? I've seen this. But should it happen, if that thing should no longer exist, so if that should happen, you take a bit of distance, but without having to go against, without having to criticize, because at the end of the day, it's bad for us. I say this because I've seen many times. I was with this master, and then this and that happened, and I lost my faith. Okay. Just give thanks and gratitude to what you received, and then depending on the situation, you choose whether or not to remain there and what path to take. And then, when you trust somebody, again, you have to be careful. We have to be really careful. We have to look well, to observe in deep way. This is really important. Okay. Therefore, take refuge, it's not any different from what we do daily. We take refuge in so many people and other things. We go to the dentist. We take refuge in the dentist. We entrust ourselves to the dentist. We go to the psychologist. When we go and eat in the restaurant, in the kitchen, we take refuge in the cook. What happens is that we're choosing to take a certain path, and we decide to entrust ourselves to one or more people to help us along the path. Somebody can ask me, I took refuge in another tradition. Can I take refuge here too? And I say, certainly. Or, I took refuge here. Can I take refuge in another teacher? As far as I'm concerned, certainly. There are certain masters who choose who might say, oh, you follow this teachings, it's all or nothing. That's also valid, although I may have a different approach. Lama Ganchen has an approach which I follow. Total openness, what we offer and whatever one chooses to receive of what we offer, you're very welcome. There is no conditions. No restrictions. If I take refuge, I can't do this, that, the other. No. Once somebody went to Lama Ganchen. So they'd confess, I want to go and try this, and this religion. Lama Ganchen said, okay, you go. And you take whatever is useful to you. So I personally have had many masters. When I talk about this, what comes to mind is that once I found myself on the beach. There was a very kind of unusual situation. Very banal. I went to a certain beach. It was very far. So 3/4 of an hour. So walking, when I get there, actually at the end of the day it wasn't even very special. I find a stand who sold coconut milk. So let's say he was about 50 years old. And I looked at him. How much does it cost? Can I have one, please? Thank you. I give the money, he gives it to me. And I was kind of blocked, frozen, because I felt something from his presence that really struck me. And then I didn't understand, but it's only later I managed to put it into words. And I didn't know what to say. I said, what's your name? He said, Michel. It's not that usual, common to find somebody with the same name as me. And when I went away, and then I put into words what happened to me. What that taught me, those few minutes together, was that an attitude of humility and dignity. He transmitted to me humility and dignity. They managed to teach me without using words, because with words it might have taken years and years to receive from him. But I was lucky enough to have the openness to receive this from him. If we were to take if we'd have been according to old text, Lama, it might be written that Lama had this intuition to go to a certain beach, and then he met a manifestation of Buddha. Anyway, the fact is that I went. I met this man, somebody whose presence transmitted something very strongly to me. Just to say, when we have our heart open, to learn, we can learn and receive from anybody. So we don't need to be closed. We shouldn't be closed. Oh, from this master I can receive only from this teacher, not from anybody else. But as Atisha said, let's respect all traditions, and then we follow diligently the one which we like most. It's okay to pick from here and there, but we need to focus on one, because every tradition has its kind of logic and progression and consistency, coherence. For example, people come to me and ask me specific questions. And they ask me questions about Buddhism vis-a-vis Hinduism. And I said, well, they're complete, they're different systems. I mean, you can't just bring two disparate points together. You have to look at the whole system. I don't know if that's clear. The important thing is to us is to choose a path and to follow. And then we can learn from here, there, but to have our path guided. So the taking refuge ceremony, it's something which happens inside of us. We need to formalize it. This commitment, practice Dharma, and ask for help. We ask for help where we formalize, in effect, something that's already inside of us, this trust. And within a certain tradition, I follow a certain tradition, Mahayana, Vajrayana, Gelupa, Nalso di Lama Michel Rinpoche. And I try to share it to my best. Who would like to follow this path? Who would like to formalize with themselves in a serious manner can take refuge. One of the reasons for which we do it formally is because the most important things often are born spontaneously, but they need to be when we fall in love with somebody. But sometimes there's a need to formalize that love because we need to protect it. We need to take care of it. And similarly, when we formalize the taking of refuge, we need to formalize this sentiment of trust and love towards a person who guides us, also towards Dharma and the system and the lineage. So it's a formalization of all that. It's like, so for example, when I go to a homeopathic doctor, I'm not only entrusting myself to that doctor, but also to the discipline of homeopathy. Sorry. So at the beginning, I don't usually do it publicly, but on the basis of request, I'd like to take refuge. Okay. I used to do it in Tibetan way, where the request was made 3 times. What I found was that there's so many requests, I couldn't satisfy everybody. So, okay, so I decided more or less once a month to help those who want to take refuge for the first time, and also for those who want to reinforce and to renew their refuge, taking refuge, entrusting themselves. I also open this up to people who don't want to take refuge. So it doesn't mean that everybody has to take refuge. Doesn't mean you have to take it. It's saying, I'm here and I'm having a look. It's nice, but no, I don't want to do it. It's not for me. Okay, that's fine, no problem. And others might say, I like it, but I don't feel ready. But that's fine. The last thing I want is somebody here feels constricted to do it. They might be here thinking, oh my God, what do I do now? Oh, and they're repeating all this funny stuff. And what am I supposed to do? You could still be here. One of the fundamental points for me is with regards to our relationship and also the center is that everybody must be able to be who they are. This is really important. Therefore, we already live through too many situations, social context, where we're not entirely honest with ourselves and we don't manifest our real selves. This is a context in which we must, I hope, that all can be sincere with yourselves. There's nothing. So you do what you really feel like doing. If you feel like doing it, if you've got doubts, oh, you want to wait, or it's not interested, that's absolutely fine. Oh, if I really don't like this stuff, you say to yourself, that's also perfectly fine. Okay, but I'm not even going to check on you and say, okay, did you take refuge? Okay, within 12 years. Everybody regulates themselves. Because if I waited 12 years to... Because the thing is, well, advantage if you do wait 12 years is that when you finally do it, you're very awake and you don't... But everybody looks at themselves and how they feel. And jokingly, I used to say, and then I say kind of jokingly, if you don't know what the refuge taking is, then better not to do it. Because it's actually a formalization of something that's inside of us. To complete this aspect, refuge comes from something which comes from, I take from something and in something. From what? From samsara. I want to get out of the cycle of suffering, mental defilements, which cause certain results to which I react again, which this cycle, this vicious cycle of being propelled by our mental defilements and dealing with the consequences in an erroneous way with our mental defilements. I want to reach this deep state of inner peace, to reach the so-called nirvana. I want to be in peace. Therefore, I take refuge from samsara, and then in Buddha and Dharma and Sangha, especially in Dharma, or rather, I entrust myself to the practice of developing love towards myself and the others, and to others, and acquiring, seeing reality as it is, and also in a person, in Buddha or representative who guides me. Therefore, let's formalize this, if you want to. As I said before, I found myself here because life propelled me to this position for various reasons. I can't say they put me here because it was actually also my choice when I was very young to follow this path. But also they also put me here. So I made my choices, and then there were other aspects. Anyway, for various things, I find myself in this position. I still love studying in Tibet. And I was there 2 or 3 years in Tashilhunpa Monastery, where I was just a disciple. It was fantastic. And to be student and disciple, and I love that. The penultimate time we went. Okay, so my master penultimate time said, okay, now I've taught you everything. It's up to you to put into practice and teach and put it and transmit it. And the process of sharing with you and to transmit is where I've learned so much. And it's really important to me. I'm not here with an attitude, "Yeah, I've already arrived." I'm walking along the path. Who would like to walk with me is very welcome. Okay, like others have helped me. There are various stories of disciples who reach enlightenment before me. So if you reach enlightenment before me, you're welcome. Lama Tsongkhapa. So a lot of masters of Lama Tsongkhapa became his disciples afterwards. The interesting thing is, in all these stories, even a disciple reaches enlightenment before the master. He never loses respect, never lost respect for his master. That's an interesting. Anyway, I'm going on too much. You know, I wish all of you to reach enlightenment well before me. Anyway, in the meantime, let's just walk together. Therefore, we're going to formalize this refuge. In this formalization, it's a declaration of trust in the other and the commitment to commit to putting into practice learning about Dharma and to transmit to others. Which is why you're given a name, which means entering into a spiritual family, which signifies wanting to get into the path. So, for example, we have idealized views of our master and Sangha. And one of the, strangely enough, one of the commitments that a teacher has is to uphold the idealized vision that the disciple may have. Once there was a disciple who went to visit a master, and he was in the kitchen making. And then he opens the door. He had his hands full of flour, and he hides his hands. And so he talks to the disciple, and the conversation goes on far too longer than he imagined. And then involuntarily he takes out his hand, which is full of flour. So the disciple thought, well, he shouldn't be cooking, he's the master. So for example, if you see me in Esselunga or a supermarket, you also, but somebody saw me and I said, somebody might see me in Esselunga and somebody say, oh, you also do the shopping. I said, well, I have to eat. So it's nothing so strange. It's a bit like so this disciple,
no, ma tu che problema c'eri? Stai facendo il pane. Arrivavo, chiedevi scusa un attimo, lavavi le mani e poi dopo facevamo, se no tornavo un altro momento perché stavi facendo il pane, no? E c'è questo aspetto di cercare di mantenere una certa immagine.
So there's this aspect that we have to kind of keep a certain imagine, which I try not to do. So not like the master who tried to hide his hand full of flour because he was making bread. So I'm trying to be true. So if somebody wants to project a characteristic onto me which isn't mine, I can't sustain something, an image of me which isn't me. So we can be transparent, sincere with each other. So, for example, there was a disciple who saw me in an unexpected situation, and this disciple was in a terrible. He found himself in a situation of unease. But, so there's this kind of fear that if the Lama sees me in a certain situation doing something that maybe ideally he thinks I shouldn't do, there's a fear that he's going to project that fixed image onto me. But don't worry about this stuff. For example, if you're smoking,
Se vedo che potrebbe essere una cosa che ha un senso, dirò non farlo, come mi è capitato in passato con qualcuno di prendere le sigarette e buttarle.
no, it happened to me once that somebody was smoking, and I did take the pack and I chucked it out, but it I have to.
L'ho fatto 2 o 3 volte e poi ha smesso.
Oh, did it 2 or 3 times, and then I stopped doing it.
Casi dico, enjoy.
Well, other occasions I say, okay, enjoy it. But that doesn't change my judgment of the disciple, the other person. So we shouldn't project an idealized version onto our guide, spiritual guide, and also not to maintain an idealized version of ourselves. We need to be ourselves. That's the important thing. So transparency and openness and sincerity. So now let's formalize this. We'll use the same methodology, the same ritual since the times of Buddha, with repetition with a formula which is given. So those who would like to take refuge, please stand up.
Nessuno deve sentirsi assolutamente.
So nobody should feel obliged, absolutely. In no way. So those of you so if you want to make prostrations, it's as a sign of respect. And then you sit down on with your right knee, and you rest on your right knee. The position, I'll show you now. So you sit on your right knee and the left knee bent. This is the position in which requests are made. And we concentrate we allow ourselves to be present in the present moment. Imagine above me, on my head, there's Lama Michel Rinpoche, my guru, and his root guru above him, Trichan Rinpoche. And then this long lineage of masters right until we get to Lama Tsongkhapa and Buddha. From the heart of each of these, there's a flow of light, which represents light and trust that each has transmitted to the one below him, and until it gets this lineage reaches all of us to our heart, and then we can imagine ourselves. And we see that as long as we're taken up by envy, unlimited attachment, anger, and as long as we react on the basis in accordance with these, using these mental defilements, it doesn't matter wherever we are, what we're doing. As we're taken up by mental defilements, we're destined to suffer. And the truth is, we don't want to stop doing this. We want to reach a state of peace, to be in harmony with ourselves and the others. And we allow ourselves to open our heart to others until we desire that each being is happy and free from suffering. And we deeply desire to want to develop our qualities, joy, love, and to help each sentient being to get out of the cycle of suffering, with the intention to develop love towards ourselves and towards others, and to have a coherent vision of reality, and to be able to develop our qualities to the maximum extent, to help each sentient being to get out of the cycle of suffering. We ask for help from Buddha, who shows us the path. We ask for the help of Dharma, the path, the effective path, and also the Sangha, the spiritual company. We take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And then in the Guru, the personification of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. While we do this, this flow of light from the heart of each master comes down to my heart, and then is emitted from my heart to all of the heart of each of you. And we undertake to use every moment of our lives to embark on this path with joy, to help others as much as we can. And we asked the Guru, inseparable with all the Buddhas, to be with us. So repeat after me. So it's a request to take refuge. So there's light and nectar. Goes from me to you, the heart of all of you, to reinforce this. Repeat after me.
Sharanam gacchami. Dharmam sharanam gacchami. Sangam sharanam gacchami. Dutiyam Buddham sharanam gacchami. Dutiyam Dharmam sharanam gacchami. Dutiyam Sangam sharanam gacchami. Tirtiyam Buddham sharanam gacchami. Tirtiyam Dharmam sharanam gacchami. Tirtiyam Sangam sharanam gacchami. Namo Gurubhye, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Gurubhye, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Gurubhye, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Triratnaya. Sangye Chodang. Tsogi Chonamla. Chanchu Pardo. Dani Kyapsuchi. Dagi Jinsok. Gibe Sonamki. Drola Penchir. Sangye Drubrasho. Nel Buddha, nel Dharma e nel Sangha.
In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, generosity, morality, patience, joyful effort, concentration, and wisdom, may I obtain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, of generosity, morality, patience, joyful effort, concentration, and wisdom, may I obtain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Adesso io vi porgo la domanda che in tibetano si dice tabbino, che vuol dire questo è il metodo,
I'm going to ask you a question, and you
rispondete l'exo,
reply Lexa, which you accept.
farò uno schiocco col dito,
And then I click my fingers,
presa di rifugio è stata formata.
and from that moment, the refuge taking has been formalized.
Quindi io chiedo tabbino, poi
I ask you Tabino, you say Lexa, okay?
tabbino.
Lexa.
Vi sedete normalmente?
So now sit normally.
Facciamo la presa di rifugio insieme.
So let's take refuge together.
Visualizzate
We visualize from my 5 chakras that rays of light, white, red, blue, yellow, and green, are absorbed into your respective chakras from the top to the bottom,
uno stato profondo di amore,
bringing you into a state of deep love and gratitude and happiness.
come se la distanza
As if the distance between us is diminishing, between body to body, mind to mind,
gradualmente,
word to word.
come se vibrassero nella stessa frequenza.
It's as if our 5 chakras vibrated in the same manner.
Quindi recitiamo insieme.
Let's recite insieme. So, to light from my 5 chakras to your 5 chakras.
Guru Bhye Namo Buddhaya Namo Dharmaya Namo Sankhaya Namo Guru Bhye Namo Buddhaya Namo Dharmaya Namo Sankhaya Namo Guru Bhye Namo Buddhaya Namo Dharmaya Namo Sanghaya Namo Triratnaya Sangye Chedan Tsoki Chonamla Chanchu Parto Dani Kyapsuchi Dagi Jinso Gipe Sonamki Drola Penchir Sangye Drupar Sho Sangye Chudang Tsoki Chonamla Chancho Parto Dani Kyapsuchi Dagi Jinso Gipe Sonamki Drola Penchir Sangye Druparashon. Nel Buddha, nel Dharma e nel Sangha prendo rifugio fino all'illuminazione. Della generosità e delle altre perfezioni, possa io ottenere lo stato di Buddha per il beneficio di tutti gli esseri.
In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge in enlightenment through the practice of generosity and the other perfections. May I obtain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Mahamuni Shakya Mahamuni Shakyamuni Soha. Dal profondo del cuore
From depths of our heart, we manifest gratitude to the Guru, inseparable from all the Gurus of the lineage and Buddhas, and we ask Guru Buddha to remain with us for all of our lives, to guide us in every choice we make, every word we utter, every thought we think. During our life, the moment of our death, the bardo, and all the future, our future rebirths. Buddha Shakyamuni Munya absorbs into each of the gurus, the lineage above my head, until we get to Lama Ganshan. It goes down to the central channel and sits joyfully in my heart. So the same nature, a light and nectar of the same nature of Guru Buddha, is emanated and reaches your crown, the size of a thumb, and it gradually descends into your heart, into a lotus flower of 8 petals, and at that point his body, speech and mind at a very subtle level is inseparable from yours, and you feel love, an infinite space, joy, harmony and peace. And allow yourselves to be Guru Buddha. Your mind is inseparable from that of Buddha, and your speech and the Guru Buddha is inseparable from that of Buddha.
Lama Rinpoche Dagi Chiwara Pede Tenshun La Kadrin Chimbu Gone Jesonte Kusun Tugi Ngodro Tsedu So Panden Tsawe Lama Rinpoche Dagi Drimbra Pede Tenshun La Kadrin Chimbu Gone Jesonte Chodan Tumo Ngodro Tsedu So Panden Tsawe Lama Rinpoche Dagi Ninkar Pede Tenshun La Kadrin Chimbu Gone Jesonte Chanchubu Ningbu Pardo Temparashun. Pakyuke Kudan Dagi Lu Pakyuke Sundan Dagi Nga Pakyuke Tudan Dagi Yi Tön Yerme Chiktu Chingi Lo Makyuke Kudan Dagi Lu Makyuke Sundan Dagi Nga Makyuke Tudan Dagi Yi Tön Yerme Chiktu Guru Buddha rimane seduto.
Guru Buddha remains in our heart, seated at our heart, and he accompanies in each moment of our lives.
Ninsen takto delek pe kuncho sumki jingilo Sumke ngodrubutsol kuncho sumke trasciscio. All'alba o al tramonto, di notte o durante il giorno, possano i tre gioielli concederci le loro benedizioni, possano aiutarci ad ottenere tutte le realizzazioni e cospargere il sentiero della nostra vita con molti segni di buon auspicio.
At dawn, at dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. Thank you very much. In this way we conclude the ceremony of refuge taking. I thank you. Thank you here. Thank you for being here and on this path together. Now we'll
Faremo la parte di fare un saluto e più che altro per chi ha fatto la presa di rifugio la prima volta viene dato un nome.
So we'll now say
Questo nome rappresenta in parte le
those who've just taken,
da sviluppare, però possiamo dire che anche più o meno tutti i nomi andrebbero bene per tutti.
so now those who've taken refuge for the first time will get their Tibetan name, which exemplifies a quality that they need, that they can develop. But basically all Tibetan names are actually okay for everybody. So it also means
Chi ha fatto la presa di rifugio come con Lama Michel Rinpoche o con qualunque altro maestro
symbolizes entering into a family. So those of you who have names already, you don't need to get a new one.
entriamo in un nuovo sentiero. A me mi è già capitato qualcuno che ha detto no ma non mi piace il mio nome, poi ha insistito, alla fine ha detto va bene, ho dato un nuovo nome, era lo stesso che aveva detto.
So once somebody said to me, look, Lama Ganchen gave me a name I really don't like. He insisted so much that I gave him a new name, and it turned out to be the same that Lama Ganchen had given me anyway.
Nostro in questo sentiero è la qualità da sviluppare.
So it's a kind of identity in this life and a quality that we need to develop.
Domani mattina ci sono
Tomorrow morning I'm here for the teachings. Thank you.